Jorge Sampaoli was not the sickness, he is merely a symptom. Sebastian Fest's line in La Nación on the day of Argentina's World Cup 2018 elimination this weekend was so starkly poignant because it gets straight to the crux of the matter, cutting through every excuse offered and pointing straight to the institutional rot that is fundamentally to blame for Argentina's ills, that bumpy road that ended in Kazan, Russia, in the baking summer of 2018 is our current waypoint, but this path truly began all the way back in the midwinter of Buenos Aires, Argentina, in 1978, on the day that the Albiceleste won their first ever World Cup. Stood on the pitch at the Monumental as the host nation's captain, Daniel Passarella, lifted the trophy, was a rising star in the Argentinian FA, Julio Grondona. Within a year he had been elected president of the association, but little did this country still cheered from a World Cup win which history has remembered less fondly, and know that from this point nearly 40 years of corruption would take hold, or the devastating effect it would eventually have on their beloved national game. Could do nothing for Di Maria's wonder goal, and a cruel deflection on Messi's strike. At just 22, he showed plenty of experience and kept Di Maria quiet. For the goal, Di Maria went into the middle, getting no joy from Pavard down the left. Scored a screamer to equalize, and brought France back into the match. Could do little for Di Maria's individual goal, and played out well from the back. With only Messi to contend with in a false nine role in the first half, had little to do, with the only goal coming from range. Dealt well with most he encountered, but against an informed player could be a weakness in the quarter-finals. After a slow start, he grew into the game and sprayed some wonderful passes out to Griezmann and Mbappé. Finally showed his massive potential. Calm and composed in possession, looks to have time on the ball even in a crowded midfield. His experience and reading of the game prevented Bega and Messi combining as they did against Nigeria, and he'll be a big miss in the quarters after picking up his second yellow of the tournament. The star of the first half show, his pace and power earned the penalty, and left Otamendi and Rojo in his wake, before adding 2 goals of his own. A quiet showing from the front man. Struggled to connect with Griezmann, and inches away from connecting with a Pavard cross. Fought to the end and gave everything. Calm from the penalty spot for the opener and caused problems with his pace. Struggled to combine with Giroud with his final ball, but performed well overall. Committed too early for Griezmann's penalty, rooted to the spot for his free kick that hit the bar, should have done better for Mbappé's second. Adjudged to be the best of a poor 3 Argentinian goalkeepers, not on this showing. Lucky to escape a yellow card for a challenge on Kanté, and one of many to look uncomfortable against French pace in attack, lost his discipline towards the end. Dealt well with Giroud, but looked vulnerable with the pace and power of Mbappé and trickery of Griezmann. From hero to villain, at fault for the French penalty, and looked out of his depth against the flying Frenchman. Mbappé withdrawn at halftime. One of the better Argentinian defenders, despite his inexperience, also tried to get forward wherever he could. One of the players that shouldered the burden of trying to support Messi, but the combination of a French defense and Kanté sitting in front left little space for him. A yard short of the pace, and his midfield passes that once looked genius, now just take too much time and go backwards. A quiet first half, and replaced by Aguero early in the second half. Everything he has been for quite a while now, inconsistent but has the talent to change a game, and his strike will be up there for goal of the tournament. Struggled to link up with Messi as he did against Nigeria, but worked hard and tried to help in defense too. A quiet first half in a false 9 position with teammates that left him to dig deeper and deeper for the ball, needed a striker to work with, and Aguero's introduction was too late for him. Could do nothing for Di Maria's wonder goal, and a cruel deflection on Messi's strike. At just 22, he showed plenty of experience and kept Di Maria quiet. For the goal, Di Maria went into the middle, getting no joy from Pavard down the left. Scored a screamer to equalize, and brought France back into the match. Could do little for Di Maria's individual goal, and played out well from the back. with only Messi to contend with in a false nine role in the first half, had little to do, with the only goal coming from range. Dealt well with most he encountered, but against an informed player could be a weakness in the quarter-finals. After a slow start, he grew into the game and sprayed some wonderful passes out to Griezmann and Mbappé. Finally showed his massive potential. Calm and composed in possession, looks to have time on the ball even in a crowded midfield. His experience and reading of the game prevented Banega and Messi combining as they did against Nigeria, and he'll be a big miss in the quarters after picking up his second yellow of the tournament. The star of the first half show, his pace and power earned the penalty, and left Otamendi and Rojo in his wake, before adding 2 goals of his own. A quiet showing from the frontman. Struggled to connect with Griezmann, and inches away from connecting with a Pavard cross. Fought to the end and gave everything. Calm from the penalty spot for the opener and caused problems with his pace. Struggled to combine with Giroud with his final ball, but performed well overall. Committed too early for Griezmann's penalty, rooted to the spot for his free kick that hit the bar, should have done better for Mbappé's second. Adjudged to be the best of a poor 3 Argentinian goalkeepers, not on this showing. Lucky to escape a yellow card for a challenge on Kanté, and one of many to look uncomfortable against French pace in attack, lost his discipline towards the end. Dealt well with Giroud, but looked vulnerable with the pace and power of Mbappé and trickery of Griezmann. From hero to villain, at fault for the French penalty, and looked out of his depth against the flying Frenchman. Mbappé withdrawn at halftime. One of the better Argentinian defenders, despite his inexperience, also tried to get forward wherever he could. One of the players that shouldered the burden of trying to support Messi, but the combination of a French defense and Kanté sitting in front left little space for him. A yard short of the pace, and his midfield passes that once looked genius, now just take too much time and go backwards. A quiet first half, and replaced by Aguero early in the second half. Everything he has been for quite a while now, inconsistent but has the talent to change a game, and his strike will be up there for goal of the tournament. Struggled to link up with Messi as he did against Nigeria, but worked hard and tried to help in defense too. A quiet first half in a false 9 position with teammates that left him to dig deeper and deeper for the ball, needed a striker to work with, and Aguero's introduction was too late for him. To understand the successes and failures of the Argentina team, they must be viewed in the context of their team's governing body, an organization for so long one of the most corrupt in the game, and in recent times, floundering since the death of Grandona, simply one of the most inept. It is a stain on a great country that he was in power for so long, acting with virtual impunity, but it is the ultimate disgrace that only his utterly corrupt direction of their FA could actually keep things going, as evidenced by the shambles ever since. Take Argentina's failure at this World Cup, a mix of disastrous preparation, pitiful resources, both financial and human, in certain positions, and mismanagement. That is the AFA all over, and there is little sign that it will improve going forward even if Lionel Messi stuns the world and decides not to retire from international football a second time. In having one of the oldest squads at the tournament, Argentina exposed what the destruction of their youth pipeline might mean for their future. Argentina won the Under-20 World Cup in 2001, 2005 and 2007. 20 players featured for Argentina at the 2018 World Cup, and 7 of those were Under-20 World Cup winners from 11 or 13 years previously. Of their last 3 U20 World Cup squads, 2011, 2015, 2017, only 2 players featured in Russia, evidence of a pipeline that dried of talent and eventually broke, with no system in place to champion or develop the youth players and no clear direction at the top had they even got there. Lionel Messi shocks journalist Rama Panterato by revealing he wore mother's lucky charm. Argentina's golden generation should really be defined, then, as between 2010 and 2016, when those 2005 and 2007 winners matured towards their peak. Look at the teams that won major tournaments in the period, though, and they were mainly those with a clear long-term plan: Spain 2010 and 2012, Uruguay 2011, Germany 2014, and Chile in 2015 and 2016, which highlights the lack of one from the AFA. It highlights their failure to maximize talent, the result, on top of the current failure of not developing it, the process. Their preparation for this summer's World Cup was shambolic, the worst of any team until Spain came along, asked Argentina to hold their cerveza, and sacked Julen Lopetegui the day before Russia 2018 kicked off. It began when the Albiceleste were struggling to qualify until they begged Lionel Messi to reverse his international retirement, and the Barcelona man dragged them kicking and screaming to Russia. Messi's hat-trick saved Argentina, sending them to Russia. AFP, Getty Images. That win over Ecuador, that sealed qualification, should have been the turning point for Jorge Sampaoli, who had until that point been forced to take a pragmatic role that was the opposite of how he had achieved all the success in his career. Argentina would have 6 friendlies across 3 international breaks in which Sampaoli could work out the best way to implement his favored system and take Argentina to success, but having used 48 players in his first 10 games, the confusion over personnel never really went away, and the friendlies that took place were disastrous, including heavy defeats to Nigeria and Spain, as well as 2 cancelled games on the eve of the tournament against Nicaragua and Israel. Argentina's only pre-World Cup friendly in the end was against Haiti, high world ranking 104, after negotiations over playing a Spanish club side failed in the wake of the Israel friendly being cancelled. That trip to Jerusalem didn't go ahead because the players weren't willing to travel over humanitarian and security concerns, and was symbolic of their problems, something organized by the AFA for money-spinning purposes that completely backfired. Israel scores own goal as Argentina match cancelled. In the past few years, Argentina have been paraded around the world like a traveling circus for international friendlies, the AFA ready to take offers from the highest bidder for games as long as they could guarantee Messi would feature. It has meant such lamentable moments as Guinness the match, a friendly in Nigeria that anyone watching could tell immediately was fixed and was subsequently deemed so by FIFA, as well as games in far-flung places like Bangladesh, India and Australia. That they needed the money comes back to Grondona, a man who essentially stole tens of millions of dollars that was destined for the development of the game in Argentina, and possibly even hundreds of millions. A former Swiss banker, Jorge Luis Arzuaga, admitted in a case brought by the U.S. Department of Justice to channeling $25 million (£19 million) in bribes to Grondona in return for helping his client, TYC, secure television rights deals, and that was only from 2010 onwards. Who knows what Grondona's true bank balance was, but it probably resembled a telephone number, an affront to a nation when the AFA's main reason for not being able to simply do away with Jorge Sampaoli after this latest humiliation is that they can't afford to pay off his contract, and that they would need him to step down. Julio Grondona corruptly made millions before his death in 2015, Getty Images. Such was the brashness and scale of Grondona's corruption that it is difficult to know where it might have stopped, and the real kick in the huevos is that he always acted with such toxic pomposity as if he were the guardian of the Argentine game, the strongest advocate of their interests. A bitter, xenophobic and anti-Semitic man, Grondona was the official who said he would only vote for England's World Cup bid if the Falklands were returned to Argentina. He, of course, voted for Russia and Qatar, and he is the same senior FIFA executive that said Jews couldn't referee because they don't like hard work. Grondona also destroyed the country's domestic game, using mafia-style favor and reward tactics to keep himself in power. He tinkered endlessly with the league's format, resulting eventually in the ludicrous current Super League of 30 top-flight teams, and club presidents alleged that he would use referees, and sometimes simple threats to fix games, ensuring certain teams got the result they needed depending on who was owed favors. During his reign over Argentine football, the local league diminished in quality and became a breeding ground for organized crime, to the extent that the authorities are now powerless to take on the Barra Brava groups that poison the domestic game. Their grip over ticket and drug sales, allied with violence not just between rival fans but rival factions supporting the same team, mean that away fans can no longer travel to games in Argentina, robbing the fans of the ability to support their team. The inside story of Argentina's disastrous World Cup: financially hamstrung in the post-Grandona era, the AFA uses its time with the international team trying to raise funds and cut costs. The first part involves infuriating the team by dragging them around the world, and the latter involves infuriating the team by providing them with amateurish logistics not befitting the players involved. On the night of Messi's international retirement in 2016, the Barca man cited the AFA's inadequacy and unprofessional approach as a key contributor to his decision, and that was a widely held feeling among the squad. The AFA never regained their players' trust, something that manifested itself again during this tournament when audio notes leaked criticizing the players after defeat to Croatia, and those inside the squad suspected immediately that it was officials from their own governing body who had done so to ensure no pressure or criticism came their way. It isn't just players who have struggled to cope with the AFA. Gerardo Martino, the former Barcelona manager, quit his job when the association couldn't get him a squad together heading towards the Olympics in Beijing. It was a farcical sequence of events that cost them a coach who should have led them to Russia this summer. Instead he quit, and their anointed successor Edgardo Bauza contrived to nearly make Argentina miss this World Cup until Sampaoli and Messi came to their rescue. Lionel Messi's career in 60 seconds off. Messi, the man that the AFA see as a cash cow and who fans saw as their savior, and he was so close to being just that, for all the false narratives being drawn out about him. At international level, just look at how this golden generation fared with him. From 2011 to 2016, Argentina reached 3 major finals and didn't lose a single game in regulation time in 4 tournaments. They lost to Germany in extra time of the World Cup final when Gonzalo Higuain had missed a one-on-one. They lost 2 Copa America finals on penalties. Can Messi be blamed for these sliding doors moments where he needed just one teammate to come good for him, or the bounce of the ball to be different, or, earlier in the game, the referee to make a right decision instead of a wrong one? In many ways the Argentina team of that 2014 to 2016 period were the best on the planet. It was sustained brilliance and achievement, but they fell short at the final hurdle, not because they were atrocious or terrible, or because Messi was a bottler, or because he doesn't love the country, as his earliest detractors used to say, but through bad luck or bad decisions. That is football. Messi struggled to process Argentina's 3rd successive final defeat in the 2016 Copa America, Getty, and when you look at the players in those squads you wonder how on earth they even got that far. It is the same imbalance of top quality with what could politely be called garbage that you saw in the Russia 2018 squad. Like the early Galactico saying goes, Zidane's why pavones, that overachievement of getting to those finals elevated expectations to a balance that is impossible. Win the World Cup or it is failure. Nothing in football can be that black and white, but when laid on the background of the AFA's ineptitude and the lack of young talent coming into the squad, it is a miracle they even did so well in that 5-year span. A miracle mainly down to Messi's otherworldly talents. Those who pay attention to Barcelona know how badly it is run as a club, but the AFA is worse. Messi is a player who has elevated every team he has ever played in and taken them to the biggest games on the planet. The difference between his achievements at club and international level is that with Argentina he never got that final push over the line from a teammate, whereas with Barca if he couldn't make the difference then someone else would. Messi has some big decisions to make. AFP, Getty Images, contemplating a future without Messi will strike fear into the hearts of the AFA, not just for financial reasons or talent reasons, but because he has masked their flaws for so long. After Grandona died, the AFA decided to try and clean up its act and hold its first democratic election. The contestants were Marcelo Tonelli, who vowed to oust the old Grandona acolytes, and Luis Segura, the continuity candidate. 75 officials were given a vote, but the result was a miracle not even Messi could produce, a tie. 36 votes apiece in a 75-vote election. It was simply the latest embarrassment for a discredited organization that would eventually elect Segura as president. Segura was, in a surprising twist, forced to step down a year later due to fraud charges, so now it is Chiqui Tapia in charge of the AFA, but it does not make a difference who is in charge as long as the culture is the same and there isn't an acknowledgement that the change must start from there before it can ever translate onto the pitch. Because what hope does Argentinian football have when its football association has no money, no plan, no structure, no quality domestic league, no youth system, no coach and, quite possibly, no Messi? No hope. That's what. Follow the Independent Sport on Instagram here, for all of the best images, videos and stories from around the sporting world.